Hello, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for this webinar on value-based licensing in Siemens Simcenter 3D. I am your host, Scott Tebow from ATA Engineering. This webinar is sponsored by ATA Engineering, so it seems only appropriate for me to give a few words from our sponsor about us and our company. ATA Engineering is a San Diego-based engineering solutions provider. We provide high-value engineering services with tremendous expertise across a 20-year company history, especially in design, analysis, and test. We are very well known in the aerospace industry, particularly for launch vehicles and satellite technology, but also in the defense community, the industrial and mining equipment field, robotics and controls, consumer products, and themed entertainment. If you have interest in getting some help for your project, you could visit us at ata-e.com for more information on ATA's high-value engineering services. One of the other ways that we delight our customers, and I should say that we do delight our customers because between 90 and 95% of all of our engineering services business comes from repeat customers. Another way that we delight them is by providing technology. We are a platinum solutions partner for Siemens Digital Industry Software, and we sell this software and provide support for these product lines: NX CAD and CAM, Solid Edge, Simcenter Star CCM Plus, Simcenter FEMAT, Simcenter Nastran, Simcenter 3D, the subject of today's webinar, and Teamcenter. We provide a support hotline for our customers and are also the developer of the official Simcenter Nastran training materials. In fact, if you have ever attended a Nastran training course in Denver, San Diego, Herndon, Virginia, you would have discovered that you were at an ATA facility to receive that training. We are also recognized as a smart expert partner with validated expertise in FEMAP, Star CCM Plus, and today's subject again, Simcenter 3D. For more information on the software products that we provide and support, you can visit us at ata-plmsoftware.com. There's a lot of information on here for free: white papers, presentations, macros, brochures, or what we call solution guides, are all available on the website, as well as recordings of previous webinars like the one that we're doing today. In fact, it is not at all unusual for us to have 10 or 100 times more people looking at our webinars on the on-demand basis through the recordings than in the live sessions. One of the resources that's on our website is the Simcenter 3D Solutions Guide. There is a lot of information we're going to be presenting today about Simcenter 3D because in order to understand the real value of Simcenter 3D value-based licensing, or tokens, it's important to understand the full depth of what's available in Simcenter 3D as a product. This solution guide provides all that information and combines all the individual solution guides in one place. So you might be interested in structural simulation, for example, durability, 3D motion simulation, multi-physics, additive manufacturing, etc. And in all those cases, you'll find the information here in the Simcenter 3D Solutions Guide or in the individual files as well. 192 pages are included in this guide. But you can get that guide here on our website and get all 192 pages, or just pick the portions of it that are of interest to you. And I encourage you to browse around on the ata-plmsoftware.com website and see what other resources might be of interest to you. So now let's launch into the webinar proper: Introduction to Simcenter 3D Value-Based Licensing, otherwise known as tokens. I am your host, Scott Tebow from ATA Engineering. Also joining us today are May Taylor and Mike Senedak from Siemens Digital Industry Software, who will assist us in answering any of your questions. at the end of today's session. As I mentioned, in order to truly understand the value of token-based licensing, it's also important to understand Simcenter 3D itself as a solution. So I'm going to spend a few minutes reviewing all of the different things that Simcenter 3D can do and how it differs from other more traditional computer-aided engineering tools. So let's take a look at this wheel, which we'll see over and over in today's presentation. You'll see that we have solutions for structures, dynamics, durability, additive manufacturing, electromagnetics, composites, thermal analysis, flow, motion, acoustics, plus wrapped around this, the ability to conduct multi-physics simulations and design exploration, all in a single product. So how does this compare to more traditional CAE tools? Let's take a look. More traditional CAE tools are disconnected and discipline specific. Your flow simulation has no relation to your thermal simulation, which has no relation to your composite simulation or your durability. In Simcenter 3D, instead, we have a scalable, unified, and multidiscipline simulation environment through which you can access all of these capabilities, most of which are supported by Simcenter 3D tokens. Traditional CAE tools typically have very poor geometry editing capabilities. On the other hand, Simcenter 3D is based on Siemens NX, one of the most powerful CAD tools available, and it has extremely powerful CAD level geometry capabilities and Siemens' own synchronous technology for fast and intuitive editing, no matter what the source of the original CAD data. Traditional tools require you to repeat most of the modeling pipeline for each design iteration, whereas Simcenter 3D is associative to the CAD model, and when you make changes to your design, can automatically update the analysis model as your design changes, so that future design iterations will be able to be conducted much more quickly than the original one. Traditional CAE tools are usually tied to a single solver, whereas Simcenter 3D is an open platform with multi-vendor CAE software support. Whether you obtain your solvers from Siemens or whether you license them from ANSYS, from Dassault Systems, or MSC Software, Simcenter 3D will be able to support them. Traditional CAE tools have no data management included. Simcenter 3D, on the other hand, seamlessly integrates with Teamcenter simulation to simulate your, or I should say, to track and manage your entire simulation process. So here is what you end up with at the end of the day with Simcenter 3D doing these types of tasks: multi-CAD, geometry importing and editing, comprehensive meshing, assembly management, with something that NX and Simcenter 3D are particularly known for, solution and subcase management, post-processing and reporting, all while maintaining CAD associativity. So it doesn't matter whether you obtain your solvers from Siemens through the Simcenter Nastran or Simcenter SAMSEF solvers, or whether you already own licenses from of Abacus or ANSYS, LS Dyna, or MSC Nastran. So here's what the traditional CAE process looks like. You start with your part design. You have this long analysis and modeling process, which is made up of different steps. Find and import your data, repair and edit geometry, create your meshes, apply your loads and boundary conditions, calculate and do your post-processing and visualization. Using Simcenter 3D, we have that same process, but it is much more accelerated. So on your first design iteration, you will find that you spend less time importing data, repairing geometry, creating mesh and applying loads because of the fully integrated nature of the system. And also the very powerful CAD capabilities of NX. Where Simcenter 3D really comes into its own is when you're doing design iterations, and now you want to go into your CAD model, make a change, and redo your entire simulation workflow. This is where Simcenter 3D can greatly accelerate the process. So you can do a rapid update for future iterations within the same project. So what is the motivation for value-based licensing? As I was explaining as we walked around this wheel a minute ago, Simcenter 3D offers a very wide range of capabilities, but if a customer needs access to all these capabilities, it could be a very expensive process to license each one using traditional modeling. That is, to buy a module-based license outright, or an annual subscription, or even a rental, could be fairly expensive if you need access to a lot of capabilities. So what you end up using traditional licensing is this type of license pool. You have a typical per seat floating license pool of products. You have a few products from which you can choose and run. With the Simcenter 3D tokens, the token pool looks a little bit more like this. You have access now to 84 different products, and that number, in fact, is growing as we add more products to the token pool. But we have access to a great deal more products through the Simcenter 3D tokens. So what is value-based licensing? Value-based licensing is an additional licensing method accessed through token packs, which I'll talk about in a moment. It uses the exact same Flex license server that's used for module-based licenses, and users can have a mix of token licenses and module-based licenses. Now, to use tokens, tokens require a base application. The base licenses can be either perpetual or a subscription or a lease, and they can be any one of the following: Simcenter Engineering Desktop, the desktop add-on, which adds the engineering desktop to an existing NX Mach 1 license, Simcenter Structures, which is the Simcenter Engineering Desktop with Nastran Basic, so you do not consume tokens to access Nastran, and the Simcenter Structures add-on, which is the same thing, only added on to an existing NX Mach 1 license. The important thing about Simcenter Structures is that it is probably one of the most cost-effective ways to buy Nastran, because you're getting the full capabilities of Nastran Basic for only a slight adder on top of the engineering desktop. And we'll see how that works out in one of our examples below. So why offer value-based licensing? Value-based licensing is intended to provide flexibility to customers, allowing access to all the applications supported without having to buy those specific products. Importantly, it accommodates changes to the customer's capability over time, not just changes with today's existing projects, but if your projects are different 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from now, the tokens will allow you to change your product mix to support your ongoing projects. Customers also use tokens to try out new capabilities. It's okay to get a 1-month trial of a license to see if maybe it will work for your particular project. Even better to be able to access those same capabilities anytime you like with tokens and try out the product for a longer period of time. It is a very cost-efficient licensing model for customers that need to access a wide variety of applications, just not necessarily all at the same time. So how does the value-based licensing work? Users always need to run a base application that uses module-based licensing. The additional Simcenter 3D applications can be run using module-based licensing if you have a license for those applications, or the token licensing. When a user attempts to check out a particular application, Simcenter 3D will first look to see if there is a module-based license available. If it is, then that license, that module-based license, will be checked out. If there is no module-based license available, either because it's in use or because you never had one in the first place, then tokens will be used to access that module. If there are insufficient tokens to support that application, then a license fault will be shown to the user. So when tokens are used, each application consumes a defined number of tokens, and it isn't a great mystery of life that the tokens, the whole reason why it's called value-based licensing, is the tokens are based on the value of the individual applications. So an application that would cost you $40,000 per year to subscribe would use more tokens than an application that would cost you $20,000 per year. When your application ends, the tokens can be checked back in and be made available to other users. The number of applications and the types of applications that can be checked out on top of the base application, either Simcenter 3D Structures or Simcenter 3D Engineering Desktop, is limited only by the number of tokens that you have in your pool. So how do you buy tokens? Value-based licenses are sold in packs. The first pack is a minimum 100 tokens, so you cannot buy just 50 tokens, and you, in most cases, wouldn't really want to. 100 tokens is a practical minimum for most of the product mixes that people would be wanting. So you would purchase SC10100 Simcenter Value-Based License 100 pack. After you have purchased that, you can purchase tokens in bundles of 100 or 50, whatever suits your needs. And these products, and this is different from NX tokens, which we talked about in a different webinar earlier this week, these token packs are available on a perpetual basis, a subscription, or a rental. At this point in time, NX tokens may only be accessed through a subscription, but Simcenter 3D tokens may be purchased outright. So what products are enabled through Simcenter 3D value-based licensing? They fall into these categories: the Simcenter environments, Simcenter thermal and flow, modeling add-ons, other solutions, the motion, flexible pipe and additive manufacturing, and the linear and nonlinear solvers. Overall, about 84 applications. Let's take a look at some of these modules that are available through the value-based licensing. This is a multi-purpose simulation environment. So using the token system, you can access structures, dynamics, noise, vibration, and harshness, acoustics, thermal, flow, composites, motion, rotor dynamics, durability, etc. Where we start is with the engineering desktop. The engineering desktop is the base application. Again, Simcenter 3D Structures is engineering desktop plus Nastran Basic. So everything starts with engineering desktop. The engineering desktop has the ability to clean and parameterize CAD geometry from almost any source. And we do offer these environments not only for Siemens products, but for a number of other popular commercial solvers. I should note that we are providing here an environment, or a link, if you will, to these solvers. If you're accessing Siemens solvers, you may be doing it through tokens, or you may have access to Nastran Basic through Simcenter 3D Structures. But if you're accessing the nonlinear solvers from Samtech, which has since been acquired by LMS, a Siemens company, then you may be using tokens for those. But no amount of tokens will give you access to an ANSYS, an LS Dyna, an MSC software, or a Simulia Abacus license unless you've already purchased one from those companies. We only are providing the link to these other solvers. We do not license those to you. So on the structural analysis side, we can do linear, nonlinear, modal, buckling, or rotor dynamics analysis using the LMS SANSES solvers or NX Nastran. On the structural dynamic side, Simcenter 3D can model dynamics, response dynamics, noise, vibration, and harshness, rotor dynamics, or aeroelasticity. On the durability side, we model static, transient, random, and strain gauge durability, as well as margin of safety calculations. On the composites analysis, the software is able to model the strength or stiffness of your composite structures, buckling and post-buckling analysis in linear and nonlinear fashions, including progressive damage simulation and manufacturing or layup simulation of the composites. The thermal analysis module can model heat conduction, convection, conjugate heat transfer through its coupling with Simcenter Flow, and radiation heat transfer. Note that we also offer specialty modules for space systems cooling and for electronic systems cooling, which are also available through the Simcenter 3D tokens. The fluid dynamics analysis, otherwise known as Simcenter Flow, can model compressible and incompressible flows, Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids, with mixing planes, multiple rotating frames of reference, two-phase flows, mixtures, and particles. And as I mentioned before, we'll couple with Simcenter Thermal for performing conjugate heat transfer calculations. The motion analysis capabilities come through Simcenter Motion, which allows you to model rigid body motion, flexible bodies, and includes tire models, co-simulation with controls, interference checking, and even specialty applications such as gearboxes and transmissions. The acoustics analysis capabilities available through the token system include noise radiation, transmission loss, enclosures, acoustic scattering, and other acoustics modeling. Multiphysics is one of the most important capabilities of Simcenter 3D. To do these types of multiphysics calculations using traditional methods typically involves a somewhat tedious process of connecting the co-simulation between two different tools which may or may not talk to each other, even if they are provided to you by the same vendor. In Simcenter 3D, we're able to support these multiphysics analyses no matter what the type, right through the single user interface. These may be thermal mechanical simulations, thermal fluid simulations, fluid structure interaction, vibroacoustic analysis, aero-vibroacoustic analysis, or structural and motion analysis. Design space exploration, the bottom part of this outer ring, also affects all of the types of simulation supported by Simcenter 3D. This is a subset of the HEEDS software, which is also sold by Siemens as a standalone product and can talk to any piece of software from any company. The optimization capabilities within Simcenter 3D are provided through the design space exploration feature, which is enabled through the token system. And it will allow you to do design space exploration, topology optimization, geometry optimization, and finite element parameter optimization through Simcenter 3D and supported by the token system. Additive manufacturing is also a very important field of study right now. Everyone is looking to manufacture their products in additive manufacturing methods and would like to know what the properties of the parts are going to be when they're finished, if there's going to be distortion in the manufacturing process, which could be corrected for in advance. And that's what the additive manufacturing capabilities of Simcenter 3D provide. It can simulate the 3D printing process, predict thermal distortion, and allow you to compensate in advance so that you print right the first time. So here is a list of all the currently supported Simcenter 3D token supported applications. And they fall into those categories that I was talking about. Over here we have the environments. Here is the design space exploration. Here is the additive manufacturing add-on. Here's the thermal capabilities and the flow capabilities. Here's the acoustics, dynamics, model correlation, durability, aerostructures, which is that 3D margin of safety, and then the enterprise Nastran capabilities that you would otherwise have to purchase through the Nastran functionality are enabled here through Simcenter 3D tokens. You can get a Simcenter 3D, a Simcenter Nastran basic license using tokens, but it's also useful to have the Simcenter 3D structures product so that you get that included and don't have to use your tokens on it. But there's the advanced bundle, dynamic response, distributed memory, being able to run on a cluster, super elements, etc., all on the Nastran side. And then here's the access to all of those advanced LMS, SAMSEF nonlinear solvers. Over here is the Simcenter 3D Motion and all of its capabilities, rigid body, flexible body, tires, drivetrains, etc., and then the flexible pipe modeling here at the bottom. Now, I should say that most, but not all products within Simcenter 3D or accessible through Simcenter 3D are token enabled. There's a number of products which come from third parties and are well integrated with Simcenter 3D, but have a royalty associated with them. So they are not currently supported by the token system, and in many cases may never be supported. There are also brand new products that have recently been acquired by Siemens that are planned to be included in the Simcenter 3D token system, but the software hasn't yet been implemented. So for example, if you're interested in the Simcenter low frequency and high frequency electromagnetics for things like motor, generator, or actuator design, or antennas and that sort of thing, these will be available through the Simcenter 3D tokens currently planned for late this year. The same thing is true for the Simcenter Multimech products. Siemens purchased Multimechanics last year and are currently implementing the token system in Multimech. This is a very exciting technology for easily and quickly modeling very complex materials, typically composite materials, but other types of crystalline materials as well. One of the other things that you should know about the Simcenter 3D tokens is that we will be continuing to add support for future products. So if you buy a perpetual license for Simcenter 3D tokens, or if you lease a bunch of tokens each year, you will see the list of applications supported by your tokens growing every year, increasing the value of the Simcenter 3D tokens you've purchased. So let me give an example of token usage during a day. Imagine we have a company here with 5 users, mixtures of Simcenter 3D structures and engineering desktop, all wanting to start their day at 9 a.m. and get to work. So at the beginning of the day, user 1 is starting up the response dynamics module, which is going to use 42 tokens. Users 3 and 4 both have Simcenter 3D structures, so they have access to Nastran Basic without using any tokens. So they start their work and they are going to continue through the day and not use any tokens at all. At 9:45, user 2 decides to start up Simcenter Thermal, which uses 43 tokens, and together with the 42 tokens that are being used by user 1, knocks the token pool down to 15. Later in the morning, user 1 finishes with the response dynamics work, and now the token pool jumps up to 57 because those 42 tokens are released. Later in the morning, user 2 finishes their work with thermal and releases those tokens, which is a good thing because user 5 now wants to start up Simcenter Flow, which requires 75 tokens. Those tokens are now available and he is able to begin his work. Let's look at 2 other examples of companies, one that is going to get good use out of Simcenter 3D tokens, and the other where maybe it isn't the right solution. So let's take a look at this customer. This is an aerospace customer with 12 licenses of Simcenter Engineering Desktop or Simcenter Structures, with on and off varying needs for SC Thermal, Flow, Space System Thermal, ESC, response simulation, etc. Which is going to be more effective, individual licenses or tokens? So here we look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We look at the number of licenses that were used for each application. And I'll point out that these specialty applications like electronic systems cooling or space systems thermal were only used once during the entire week. Without a token system, you would have to buy a license for those particular modules. And because they are very specialized and advanced, it's not a cheap license. Yet with the token system, they may be accessed for a lower price. So let's take a look. When we add up all the licenses that were needed through the week, we end up with 32 licenses, which could be accessed with 500 tokens. So 9 applications were used. If we were using module-based licenses, 32 separate licenses would be required, whereas the value-based licensing required 500 tokens. When we look at the cost between the module versus the value-based licensing, the user saves almost 60% by going with the tokens. Now let's take a look at the counterexample. In this case, we have a user that has 12 licenses of Simcenter Engineering Desktop and needs occasional use for Nastran Dynamic Response, but no other modules. So everyone, or most all of their users are using their licenses of the Nastran Basic, and a smaller number are using Dynamic Response throughout the week. In this case, we add up the tokens versus the licenses, and it shows that in this case, the module-based licensing is 60% cheaper than the value-based licensing. So it is typically going to be the case that if you want access to a lot of different capabilities for your team, value-based licensing may be useful. If you're looking to use only a few modules of Simcenter 3D and use them all the time, traditional licensing is probably going to be more cost-effective. So how do you estimate the number of tokens that you might need? First, estimate your peak usage requirements, the number of products that may be in use at any one time. Provide this information to us at ATA Engineering, and we'll work up an analysis like I showed you in the previous slides to tell you whether token-based licensing is a good fit for your company. Don't forget to consider what your future requirements may be. That is potential changes to the types of modules and numbers of modules you might require. Now let's go into a few frequently asked questions on value-based licensing. The first is, which Simcenter 3D versions use value-based licensing? VBL has been supported since Simcenter 11, and all subsequent versions support value-based licensing. Can Simcenter 3D tokens combine with tokens in other portfolio products, such as NX tokens, AIMSIM tokens, or Star CCM Plus Power tokens? The answer is no. Simcenter 3D tokens can only be used in Simcenter 3D. It can be used to access Nastran or SAMSEF applications, but not NX, AIMSIM, or Star applications. Can tokens be used with license borrowing? No, they cannot. So you cannot borrow your licenses and put them on your laptop if they are tokens. That is a functionality reserved for module-based licenses. When are tokens more cost-efficient than module-based licensing? The important thing to remember here, if you only remember one thing about the value of these tokens, is that there is no hard and fast rule. Each customer situation needs to be evaluated. In general, though, customers who need to access a larger range of products will be good candidates for value-based licensing. Can users control whether a module-based license or a token-based license is consumed? No, they cannot. Simcenter 3D will always try to check out the module-based license first. And only if that module is not available will it try to check out the appropriate number of tokens. Is it possible to use Simcenter Nastran via tokens with VMAT? Simcenter 3D based products are a mandatory prerequisite for getting the tokens. But once you have the tokens, if you have a mix of VMAP and Simcenter 3D, you should be able to run Nastran with tokens. I should mention at this point, as I said before, that Simcenter 3D Structures, which is one of the base products, includes Nastran Basic and is in most cases going to be the most cost-effective way to add Nastran Basic to your pool. How can users get training for capabilities that they want to use with tokens? Yeah, it's a very good question because there are so many capabilities available through Simcenter 3D that it would be a common occurrence for users to not know how to use the module even if they now have access to it. So we recommend that users sign up for the Siemens Learning Advantage, which you can do through ATA. where your users would have access to online recorded tutorials and self-training that they can do at their own pace and very cost effectively. So how do customers track their token usage? There are a couple of ways. In the Simcenter 3D installation, you have access to something called LM Tools. If you're running LM Tools and you look at the Config Services tab, you can find when the tokens were checked in and out. If you're more interested in how many tokens are currently available, then you instead go to the Server Status tab and you enter SimCenter_token here in the individual feature, and it will tell you total of 100 licenses used, in this case, total of 22, total of 100 licenses issued, meaning in the pool, total of 22 licenses currently in use. So I would, at this point, like to open up the webinar to questions, and I'm happy to take your questions now, or you can email them to me at the email address shown on your screen, and also feel free to call if you have any specific questions. Thank you for joining us for this afternoon's webinar on value-based licensing for Simcenter 3D.